Hello, greetings, and welcome, my dear listeners. My name is Heretical Hatter, and I welcome you to the second episode of Out of the Hat, where I rant about a subject of my fancy. If I did everything correctly, this video will be posted during my birthday, so you have something to enjoy, as I enjoy my own little party. If I worked really hard, there should be also the introduction to Damocles Gulf Crusade Rewrite and the first episode of a series. So there will be something for you to listen to. But let's not talk about nothing, let's focus on today's subject. And I wanted to talk to you about my initial project that I wanted to be the start of my YouTube career. Project inspired directly by AFanWithTooMuchTime and his Star Wars vs Warhammer 40k series. It was Star Wars x T'au project. Now, before I go into details, I wanted to talk to you why I think that there are only two factions from Warhammer 40k that can be transported into Star Wars Galaxy and actually have a fun narration to play with. In fact, there are only two factions that can do so. It's the Imperium of Man and the T'au Empire. And I'm not saying it only because I am fan of AFanWithTooMuchTime series and of T'au Empire. I actually have a good reasons why I think other factions wouldn't have interesting narrative in Star Wars Galaxy, or at least not as interesting. Let's start with an easy one. Eldar and Dark Eldar, or Eldari and Drukhari, whichever way you prefer. And if you think about it, the idea of Eldar that are free from the hunger of Slaanesh is very interesting. And on first glance, you can do a lot with this idea. However, the Eldar and Dark Eldar would be severely crippled in Star Wars Galaxy for one single reason. In Star Wars Galaxy, there is no webway. Remember, webway is a construct. It was built, it was created. It doesn't exist in Star Wars Galaxy, which means one of the greatest advantage and extremely important part of Eldar technology and culture is gone. More so, they can't even reproduce it. It was stated many times that Eldar basically only maintained webway created by the old ones, and they were shocked and scared when the Emperor figured out how to create new pathways through the webway. So yes, while arrival of individual Eldar could be interesting, because there is no demon god trying to eat their souls, I think they would be too crippled in terms of advantages in Star Wars Galaxy. The next one on the list, the Orcs. And the Orcs are really fun. Before I started the collecting miniatures of Games Workshop of Warhammer 40k, and I was collecting for a time, I really wanted to have a Xeno army. And I was split between the Orcs, the Necrons, and the T'au. And the T'au won in the end because I was in my weeb phase. So, yeah, I mean, that fits. I can't escape any allegations and comedy associated with this. But, going back, Orcs. In Warhammer 40k, in Milky Way Galaxy, it was stated many times that the orcs became fused with a very reality at this point. They were so long in this galaxy. But if they are transported into Star Wars galaxy, they don't have advantage of being an infestation and basically a rogue bioweapon for 60 million years. No, they are something new and something in very limited scale. Even if we take very big Wa and throw it into the Star Wars galaxy, there would still be, well, there would be high chance of them being contained and even erased. I mean, T'au figured out how to cleanse the world from orc spores, so I'm sure that Star Wars Galaxy could figure it out as well. The Necrons, I mean, okay, they are cool, but basically no other interactions than combat. If Trazen showed up, you could have a fun story of Trazen stealing shit. But that's basically it. Because transporting all of the Necrons to Warhammer 40k, to Star Wars Galaxy doesn't make sense, and Small Dynasty wouldn't have numbers to challenge the Star Wars Galaxy or major Star Wars factions. They have too great numbers advantage. So that doesn't work either. The Chaos Forces, the Star Wars version of the Force or Sea of Souls, isn't half as turbulent as that of Warhammer 40k, so as AFanWithTooMuchTime explained in some of his Q&As, and in which with what I agree with, I don't think that demons could really operate outside of few worlds where the dark side is very powerful. The different rituals of Chaos Space Marines wouldn't be as effective, and basically they would be reduced to, well, that's just a Sith Empire 2.0, or on a hard mode. So, again, not really working outside combat. Maybe if we took word bearers and tried to change the belief and faith of an entire galaxy, maybe it could work. But I am not sure about Chaos Forces either. I mean, again, we will need to have a word bearers, and word bearers overall are not that fun to read about, at least from my experience. Sorry, I don't like them. I don't like them. That's it. So only word bearers could have real long-term impact on the galaxy. I don't see. Maybe Iron Warriors? Maybe Iron Warriors. Maybe them. Maybe. The Tyranids? Well, that's Yuzang Vong invasion, but on a hard mode. I mean, Star Wars Galaxy is far more populated than Warhammer 40k Galaxy. They can create planet-destroying weapons in a couple of years if they want to. If the entire galaxies, in entirety of Star Wars Galaxy, united to fight against Tyranids, just as they united against Yuzang Vong, I am quite certain that with mad technology that Star Wars have access to, the Tyranids would just turn away and go try to eat some other galaxy. I'm actually believing that unless, like, the entire galactic disk was attacked from below in all places at the same time, I don't believe that they could win against Star Wars Galaxy. I actually don't believe that. Tyranids are powerful, and there are basically just two scenarios. Either Tyranids are pushed back, just as Yuzang Vong, or they win and eat the entire galaxy. So, again, not that much for a narrative. Votann. Leagues of Votann we know basically nothing about. And even if we take only the data from codexes, they would just be another mega corporation. And that's it. Just another mega corporation to add to the list, and I don't believe that this is that interesting either. Now, why the Imperium of Man and the T'au work well with Star Wars Galaxy, with the idea of transporting them there and interacting. Well, the Imperium of Man, most importantly, is the humans, the common element. Both the Star Wars Galaxy and the Imperium of Man has a lot of humans, like a shit ton of humans. So this connection alone, the outlook on AI, on artificial intelligence, that's another interesting connection. And of course, the Republic that lasted in peace for 1,000 years, and the Imperium that lasted in war for 10,000 years. So, because of this human element, because they are like mirror reflection or different type of humanity, and because of artificial intelligence, there are many things you can play around with. But still, just as the Star Wars versus Warhammer 40k series of AFanWithTooMuchTime showed, those interactions would still be combat for the most part. And then we have the T'au, the weakest faction of Warhammer 40k. But if transported into Star Wars Galaxy, they become extremely powerful. And I'm not talking only about combat and military force, but diplomacy, technology, and ability to adapt. Think about it. Actually immerse yourself into the Star Wars Galaxy and then place T'au Empire in some region. And think about how many advantages they have. In Star Wars lore overall, one of the most respectable armies that are known are the Clone Army and Mandalorians. Those militaristic cultures are recognized as one of the greatest warrior cultures in the entirety of the galaxy, with Clone Army having advantage of their soldiers growing up within 9 to 10 years. And T'au have Firecast. Firecast who are from birth dedicated to one goal and one goal only: waging war. They have really good equipment, like the standard equipment that T'au have, the T'au Fire Warrior have, is impressive by 40k standards. We have books where a bolt round from a bolter smashed into a Fire Warrior helmet. It didn't explode because it was faulty for some reason. I'm guessing Zinch decided that this bolt won't explode, but this bolt still lodged in the helmet didn't kill the T'au who was wearing this helmet. I remind everyone that the bolt round is a small RPG, basically. So not only you are getting, and it's quite heavy, so this helmet survived that. In many books we have shown that Firecast armor can survive direct lasgun shots, and in few examples even bolt round shots. When they explode, they usually knock the soldier down, but they do survive. Not to mention that basically all weapons of T'au have, like infantry weapons, have small gyroscopes that basically help in aiming. They have aim assists in real life, not only through helmets, but through actual equipment within their guns that helps them aim and keep the aim steady. That's a standard equipment they have. I won't even mention the advantage that battlesuits give to military of the T'au Empire in Star Wars Galaxy, because I don't believe that anyone has appropriate counter to something like this. I mean, we have infantry with jetpacks in Star Wars Galaxy, but there are very few examples of battle suits with jetpacks. And even then, it's an elite force that is deployed in very limited number. The T'au Empire can deploy hundreds of such battlesuits on some battlefields. And the most terrifying thing, the T'au mature twice as fast as standard humans. They also live around only half the amount of the time as a standard human does, but they do become adults twice as fast. So they become adults around 9 to 10 years old. If you were keeping attention, you just realized that a standard fire warrior has similar lifespan and military training to clone troopers. And clone troopers were trained by Mandalorians, who are very impressive. Very impressive, yes. The T'au fire warriors have also quite long history of killing people and have many allies with whom they train. Hell, even if we say that on average a clone trooper will be slightly better or simply better than a T'au fire warrior, I don't believe there is a single person who could say, yeah, a T'au pulse rifle is weaker than a blaster. Yeah, I'm not buying this. The pulse rifles are freaking terrifying. And that standard military force, we saw how much the clone troopers managed to accomplish and how renowned they were. And the T'au produce soldiers of similar quality, in my opinion, on average. Like, this is standard for them. But let's not focus on the military, because Star Wars Galaxy has numbers advantage, and just like in Warhammer 40k, T'au are outnumbered. So they would be swarmed either way, whatever advantage they have. Well, the aircast, similarly to the firecast, would be trained in navigating and piloting vessels from the moment they are born. I don't believe I need to tell you that an average aircast pilot is far superior to basically any other standard pilot in Star Wars Galaxy. I do not believe that there are many cultures where pilots of starfighters are trained from birth. I do not believe that even Mandalorians do so. Mandalorians are too focused on the ground combat. Aircast is, similarly to Firecast, fully committed to navigating space. And of course, not all of them will become combat pilots, but still, that's a lot of very good pilots that they have on hand. But again, you can say, well, they can be outnumbered. The skill doesn't matter. Okay. What about the water cast? The most dangerous of all casts, according to the Imperial Inquisition. We have stories where the one singular water cast managed to convince pirates in a given sector to unite and fight against the Imperial regime to a point of crippling logistics of the entire sector and forcing entire sector battle fleet to attack the pirates' holdout. One guy managed to cripple logistics of entire sector. Want other example? There is actually an example of a T'au watercast tricking and manipulating Adeptus Astartes space marines into attacking loyal servants of the Emperor and the Imperium, making the entire world rebel against the Imperium after witnessing that. Watercast members managed to play Adeptus Astartes like a damn fiddle. They made entire worlds of Imperium of Man to change sides. Now put them in Star Wars Galaxy. I do not care how good Darth Sidious believes himself to be in manipulating people, and he is really good, but let's be honest, he didn't really have that much of competition with manipulation on that great scale. There wasn't really anyone who could match him. And what happens when the Watercast arrives? Can he counter plot of every single Watercast diplomat in Star Wars Galaxy? Is he actually capable of challenging not one, not two, but the entire cast of people dedicated to one thing and one thing only? Diplomacy, manipulation, and social engineering. Don't get me wrong, Sidious is great. But in this situation, it is he who is outnumbered. And the last on the list, the Earthcast. Do I even need to tell you how quickly the Earthcast would take hyperdrive and manage to recreate it? Or hell, improve it? The Earthcast are absolutely insane. This is a cast of mad scientists. Give them to access to technology from Star Wars, in some ways which is more advanced than from Warhammer 40k, but in many others it's worse. It's on, in my opinion at least, the general technological level or tech level of Star Wars Galaxy is very close to that of the T'au Empire. So their ability to figure this technology out and get access to necessary data to figure it out would be accessible. They would take this technology, adopt it, improve it for the T'au Empire. And suddenly, the greatest weakness of the T'au Empire, being extremely slow in FTL travel, disappears, because they have hyperdrives as well. See, this is the reason why I wanted T'au for that project, because the way that the amount of layers, this is a good word, layers, on which T'au can interact with Star Wars Galaxy is, in my opinion, greater than the Imperium of Man. The Imperium of Man will never try to overtake a given organization or a movement. Imperium of Man will never try to make proper allies within the galaxy. They won't focus on trade, they won't focus on agreements and this political manipulation. But the T'au can, and you can have a lot of intrigue and a lot of those plays, political plays, betrayals, and treaties that influence entirety of the galaxy on many layers, rather than just focusing on the layer of combat. Now, there's of course an important element that I need to mention, that the T'au Empire, or T'au arriving to Star Wars Galaxy, only works if they can arrive and have at least a little bit of time to establish themselves. Because if they arrive, let's say, in the Galactic Empire era, then they are a bit fucked, because they could be quickly overwhelmed or forced into submission by Emperor Palpatine. And that's not fun, that's just cutting all the potential. The best moment for a T'au to arrive is around the period of Phantom Menace. Why? Because this is the start of the period where the fabric of the Republic starts to unravel and break apart and tear into chunks. This is a moment of crisis, of stagnation of the Republic, soon the start of separatist movement, the strength of corporations, and basic political turmoil within the Star Wars galaxy. What better moment for the T'au to show up, to stir the pot a little bit more, and to make it a little bit more chaotic and more interesting. It also allows the T'au to establish themselves before the great conflict of the Clone Wars. So, and of course, ability of the rest of the galaxy to prepare and adapt to them. I mean, this is a period where both every single cast would have fun in this period. Watercast the most of all. The Watercast would love the intrigue and political turmoil of this era. They would have so much fun with it. The Earthcast would have a lot of fun with adopting Star Wars technology. The Aircast have new FTL engine or FTL drive, and they can explore the galaxy. Holy shit, what a nice thing for the Aircast. And the Firecast, there are more than enough pirates, bandits, mercenaries, and corporations, and slavers. Not sure if there is a difference between corporation and slavers in terms of Star Wars Galaxy, but no matter. But those are more than enough fun enemies to fight and kick ass. So every single cast have something to do. I know it might be controversial, but I personally enjoy Star Wars politics and intrigue quite a lot. And I see a potential of this political influence spreading throughout the galaxy as enticing, interesting. Now, I explained why I chose the T'au, why I chose Phantom Menace era. Now I need to explain the region I chose, because in all of my attempts, and I had 3, I always turned back to the same region. It's a region of wild space on the border of known and unknown galaxy, near Kali, homeworld of General Grievous. Now, why this region is important? First of all, it's relatively empty, so I can introduce T'au in this region without messing with the region with all directions. Now, if I put them here, they basically influence only region to their galactic east, and that's basically it. Another reason why to choose this region of space is because Kali is a great example of incompetence and arrogance of Galactic Republic. You see, around a decade before, the war between Yamri, the natives to Hook, those mantis-looking brother fuckers, attacked Kali and Kalish people with attempt to enslave them. In this period, a man known as Quayman Jail Shalal, later known as Grievous, rose as a hero and leader of their people, and in around a decade-long conflict, managed to beat the ever-loving shit out of technologically advanced Yamri. The Yamri were getting so kicked in the ass, in fact, that they called for their friends in Senate, saying that the Kali attacked them, in fact, and the Yamri were victims. And Galactic Senate, of course, didn't check who were the bad guys, and simply decided to send local defense fleets and Jedi, around 60 if I'm not mistaken, to basically scare Kali into surrendering and into signing very bad peace treaty. A treaty so bad that it caused a massive famine in Kali and a small genocide of Kalish people. Yeah, that happened. That what Galactic Republic Senate did just years before the blockade of Naboo and start of Phantom Menace. That's what they did. Most importantly, however, for this Star Wars X T'au project was that Grievous attempted to restart this war and achieve total victory shortly after the Phantom Menace. And in this attempt, his ship was sabotaged, he suffered great wounds and was transformed into cyborg we know and love. Now, with those information in mind, think what happens when the T'au arrive near Kali, or in this region of space, and attempt to make contact. If there is one thing we can be sure of, is that T'au despise slavers. They hate them. They hate them with passion, especially after their experience with Drukhari. So the T'au would be more friendly towards Kalish people. Hell, because of their experience with the Kroot, they have experience working with less technologically advanced species and making them great friends and allies. I mean, Kroot are widely respected in the T'au Empire, despite the fact that they aren't as technologically advanced. Additionally, with how arrogant Yamri are, I am quite sure that if they stumbled upon T'au outposts and saw that they try to live peaceful life, they would try to take them as slaves just for fun, because Yamri are absolute assholes. So here, in this chosen period of time in Star Wars Galaxy and region, we already have initial conflict. A second Hook War, where the T'au, 99% of the time, join with Kali against the Hook. And because of T'au presence, Grievous wouldn't be turned into cyborg, most likely, and remain as a hero of his people. However, this idea goes further, because how arrogant and ignorant the Galactic Senate is, I am quite sure they would attempt to solve the Second Hook War the very same way they solved the first one. However, this time things are a little bit different, because now the T'au Navy waits in the orbit, and no few shuttles and 1.5 frigates that Kali might have found somewhere. And because it's a period of Phantom Menace, the Republic doesn't have proper army or navy. They have corvettes, frigates, maybe light cruisers, at best, in almost any case. I think outside of the very core of the galaxy, they don't have anything bigger than that, with few exceptions here and there. So this creates not only the first alliance, this scenario, not only creates first alliance in between the T'au and the Kali in Star Wars Galaxy, but also overall conflict and antagonism between the Republic and the T'au Empire. And from that, we can go into T'au. Because I, for example, had the idea that the T'au would be great in influencing and advancing separatist movement. Now that would be interesting. The Sith plan this great civil war for 1,000 years, and here comes the T'au, and suddenly the Sith need to fight over control and influence of separatist movement. Now wouldn't that be interesting for Count Dooku that he would be forced to reveal himself, for example, sooner, just to try to get a hold of separatist movement before the T'au do so? I think it would. Now, the last very important piece of information for basically all of my attempts is that I wanted to have a story being shown from perspective of one main character who'd travel the Star Wars galaxy. How to do that? I decided that in whatever way, alongside the T'au, few rogue traders who abandoned the Imperium of Man and joined the T'au Empire arrived to the Star Wars galaxy as well. And the main idea, or at least a very important piece of story of each and every attempt that I made, was that the main character would travel on board of Herald of Profit, a rogue trader light cruiser, going through the Star Wars galaxy, establishing outposts, trade posts, and spreading the influence of a greater good. This would allow the main character not only to interact with the Star Wars galaxy, but also the members of Warhammer 40k galaxy at the same time, and having more than T'au perspective on any given culture, alliance, tradition, etc., etc., etc. And of course, creating this band of misfits, which is typical for rogue traders, and having my main character not being the rogue trader themselves, but just a part of a court, I think it would be fun. We have stories where we see narration from the perspective of a rogue trader. Hell, now we have a game where we can take a role of a rogue trader. But I think that having not only the perspective of Star Wars Galaxy, but also of a rogue traders and their eccentricity from the point of view of an outsider, like a T'au Fire Warrior, would be just as enjoyable. So, I explained basic idea to you already. Now it's time to talk about my failures, as I tried to figure it out. So the attempt number 1, it turned out into power fantasy. I wanted T'au to arrive, not only the T'au Empire, Farside Enclaves, a minor Eldar Craft World, a Votan Brotherhood, and Rogue Trader Dynasties unite to find a way to get the fuck out of the Warhammer 40k galaxy, and they manage to escape to Star Wars Galaxy. They form a union, they make alliance with Kali, then with the Chiss, creating the Ascended Union, basically becoming a third faction when the Clone Wars arrive. A faction that is initially neutral, then a Sith-tricked Republic to attack them, then making the Union join the CIS, then CIS betrays them, and the Union again becomes neutral and isolates themselves from the galaxy, as the Republic is transformed into Galactic Empire. The main character was to be Shio, a Firecast, Earthcast half-breed from Farsight Enclaves. And yeah, he was supposed to be a combat engineer who was taken into the Rogue Traders expedition into Star Wars Galaxy, and there was supposed to be a romance with a member of a Watercast member who dies after she is assassinated or killed by representatives of the Galactic Empire. The Shio goes on a rampage, abandons Ascendant Union, becomes a mercenary and a rebel in Star Wars Galaxy, and works his way all the way to the top of Rebel Alliance. If you listened very closely, you probably noticed that this story is batshit insane. And it is. It's horseshit. It's absolute horseshit. I wrote down, I think, 140 pages of potential mini-story that I wanted to take as introductions or like a test, lore, characters, world building, and other bullshit. Like, I wrote over 140 pages for this fucking project before I realized how bad it is, how much of a power fantasy it is, and I don't like power fantasies overall. I mean, I started this first attempt mostly for fun, as a joke. A little story. There was a guy on Knight's Library, which is a server where fans of Star Wars Warhammer 40k meet and talk with each other. There was one guy who was a total asshole and keep criticizing AFanWithTooMuchTime and his writing. And I wrote this first attempt out of spite, just to mock him, because he claimed that he will create some new freaking story better than AFanWithTooMuchTime, and in 6 months, he didn't have anything, he didn't even have a fucking plot. Like, characters or plot points didn't exist. After 6 fucking months. And I wrote those 140 pages in 3 weeks, out of spite and to mock him. Yeah, when I get motivated, especially by spite, oh, I work fast. I can work fast indeed. And again, I was working basically, it was a joke story, a joke project, so I didn't really put that much thought into it, and that's why I in the end threw it out, because it was complete bullshit in the end. I had enough mind to realize how shit it was. The guy that I talked about was banned in the end because he was very rude, like complete asshat. So he was banned, good riddance, the guy is gone. But the idea of Star Wars X 40k remained. So I took a second attempt. This time the main character would be Muntsu-Ransai, Moonlance. And he is basically an advanced version of Shio. He is again a Firecast, Earthcast half-breed, and this time rather than entirety of the T'au Empire, only enclaves. Only Farsight enclaves made it to Star Wars Galaxy. And you have again alliance with Kali. Later there's establishment of contact with Chiss. And because those were Farsight enclaves, they aren't really as so manipulating as the T'au Empire. So there were expeditions, they were spreading influence, but in the end they would also isolate themselves and focus more on threats in the unknown regions. But that also isn't that much of a fun story, in my opinion. Like, if you limit yourself only to like period of Clone Wars, in terms of combat and so on. Munsuransai was supposed to end up as a commander of a fire caste and even an ally and friend of Farsight. In this case, I was feeling more confident, and I actually wrote down over around 80 pages of actual plot and script for a story of a first battle between the Farsight Union, as I would rename Farsight Enclaves, and the Galactic Republic, as the first battles of the Clone Wars between those two factions. And it was supposed to be like a tease, an idea, to check if people will ever be interested in this. Because as I was writing like the plot points, I realized that the start of the series wouldn't really seem much like Star Wars, because we wouldn't see much of Star Wars species. So, it would be... I thought that making a first like test episode in Clone Wars would be more interesting overall. I even started to record and planned to publish it before I stopped myself and decided, no, telling the story from basically a middle is just stupid in my opinion. Like, I am not doing that, it wouldn't work in my opinion. I know it might sound strange because George Lucas did just that and basically started the history of Star Wars from the middle, because he had plans both from before the original trilogy and after. But throughout, every trilogy had their own sets of characters. And here there would be one character through all of it. So you would be introduced to Munsuransai in the middle of his life. That wouldn't do. Additionally, because I knew it wouldn't work, I tried to write this battle the same way AFanWithTooMuchTime wrote Battle of Axum, meaning there are many perspectives. I limited myself, in fact, to I think only 4 perspectives. I forced myself to be limited, and yet I wrote a lot, and we didn't see that much. So, because of my personal fears that I would return into my bad habit of trying to show one event from dozens of perspectives, I stopped myself and I moved to T'au Empire Reimagined project. And counting both the first and second attempt, holy shit, that's probably like 300 pages of hard work lost. Gone. Not exactly. A lot of elements and ideas that I came up with Star Wars X T'au were transported into T'au Empire Reimagined. Some regions, some doctrines, and some characters were inspired by what I came up with in Star Wars X T'au. Hell, main character his name is Munsuransai. Those who watched T'au Empire Reimagined remember that there was very important character known as Munsu and very important character known as Ransai. Those two names come from Munsuransai. And I thought that this would be the end of it, that I wouldn't go further with this idea. But I did. Currently it's like, to say it's on the back burn is understatement. I just have few notes in regards of my third attempt idea. This time I'm simplifying things. It's not the T'au Empire, it's not Farsight Enclaves, it's the 4th sphere of expansion that got transported into Star Wars Galaxy. Or more precisely, the 2/3 of 4th sphere of expansion that were lost officially during the transit. They didn't die, they were saved by Goddess Tauva, and placed in the Star Wars galaxy. The main character is again T'au, his nickname being Shore, from Shas, fire, and Por, water. He isn't a half-breed, but he has a talent that is unusual for a firecast, is that he is very good in communicating and with picking up new languages. And rather than becoming a commander of a firecast, he would be a commando, master of Monat, the lone warrior. But not standard commando from that just hides and so on. No, he would be a commando that knows how to work with other species of the T'au Empire and other civilizations. This talent with communication was one of three most important characteristics of T'au. The second is that he is overall tougher than standard T'au in terms of strength, stamina, and toughness of body. He is above average for a T'au, and in some ways he is above average than standard or average human, even. And the third will be his incredible willpower. Like, this dude doesn't crack, no matter what. At least mentally, because my intention was that through many campaigns and engagements, he would suffer more and more crippling wounds. And because, just like in other ideas, he would travel with a rogue trader through the Star Wars galaxy, the influence of a tech priest would make him choose metal over flesh. So this T'au would be a badass commando that becomes more and more like a cyborg through his career. I am wondering if a potential platonic romance with a watercast could work, or maybe even with one member or different species member of a rogue trader dynasty or their court, just to spice things up. And T'au as this specialist commando that knows how to work and communicate well with non-T'au cultures would be sent with this rogue trader through the galaxy, establishing outposts, spreading word of a greater good, and influencing the galaxy in more subtle ways. And here, rather than T'au Empire isolating themselves from the rest of the galaxy, the greater good and T'au will become important part of separatist movement. And there would be this conflict with intentions of the Sith, how to influence CIS, separatist movement, and so on and so on. I wanted T'au to visit many worlds in his travels, with special importance put on characters within the Rogue Trader court that could have their own influence on different cultures. On Dathomir, where there are Night Sisters, I wanted one of bastard brothers of a Rogue Trader, a Psyker at that, have a little bit of fun, if you know what I mean. And the main character being forced to sit there and wonder what the fuck he is doing here, like what is his actual job. That a bastard brother of Lord Captain has a bloody booty call with witches on a planet they were supposed to be scouting. On Mandalore, I wanted this interaction with a civilization that had so many proud warriors, but chose pacifism. On Zygeria, I wanted him to just punch few slavers, because of very simple reason. Glory, alleluia, to John Brown, and fuck the slavers. If I am transporting, if I'm isekaiing fucking T'au into Star Wars Galaxy, I will make sure that there won't be, oh, it's different culture, let's accept, fuck slavery, let's kill the slavers. That's what the greater good demands. John Brown inspires me. And I despise fucking isekai where the main characters fucking buys female slaves. Fucking disgusting. Fuck those anime. Fuck those manga. Fuck this idea. John Brown all the way. Kill the slavers. I think that this counts as a rant within a rant. Either way, yeah, I wanted him to visit different places like Twi'leks and how to help those people fight against slavery, how to deal with those disgusting huts. Maybe even go as far as finding the Chiss ascendancy and establishing contact with them as well. I think that a story of a single T'au being thrown into strange environment of a rogue trader vessel and going through unknown galaxy, meeting different cultures, would be very interesting. With added bonus that some things would happen after they would leave given region or without their input. Like in real life, a lot of things happen without main characters' involvement. And I really wanted to play with this idea that yes, Mutsuranse is a badass, he's a badass commando, and he does have spreads influence and impacts, his role impacts the reality of Star Wars Galaxy, but he isn't, let's say, as impactful as Darth Sidious or Anakin Skywalker. And the idea was that during the Clone Wars, the T'au join the CIS in full, because they are important part of separatist movement, and fight in the Clone Wars. And here where a big problem arrived for me and one that I couldn't really figure out. This is a reason why I didn't really went ahead with this project. This is the reason. It's the Clone Wars timeline. And you might be confused, well, wait a second, there is Clone Wars TV show, what the hell are you talking about? I'll be honest with you. I loved Clone Wars TV series when I was little. But the older I got, I started to dislike it more and more. In Clone Wars TV show, the Republic always wins. Like like almost every time it's Republic victory, no matter what kind of battle. They always win. Next, there are no maps. We have no idea where combat happens. Like, if you try to analyze the map of what Clone Wars represent, you could be convinced that the border of either factions didn't move throughout the entirety of the Clone Wars, basically. Because from the start, CIS is basically relegated to the outer rim, and that's it. They are cut off from the start, and the Republic just beats the ever-loving shit out of them for 3 years. Now, before the Clone Wars, in Legends, in Expanded Universe, however you prefer to call it, the war was more dynamic, it was more interesting, it was more grim, in my opinion, and better. The fact that Anakin Skywalker was a Padawan for a long time, and you can observe how he was transformed into Anakin from the Revenge of the Sith, rather than being the same cocky guy from the entirety of the Clone Wars, according to the Clone Wars TV show. And you might think, well, Hatter, this is the solution, you just take the Legends or EU timeline, the original, before the Clone Wars TV show, and that's it. Well, here's problem. Because there are elements of a Clone Wars that I really enjoy. I mean, some things are complete bullshit. The ones, the gods of the Force, complete bullshit. A technology that allows you to change your face and voice by snapping fingers, basically, like it's so fucking easy, it's also bullshit. But, for example, Mandalore becoming a pacifist planet. Oh, that is super interesting. To have a civilization of warriors, of basically a creed where everyone could become a Mandalorian, transformed into a pacifist and ethnic state, because as you probably saw in Clone Wars, basically all Mandalorians have blonde hair and blue eyes, rather than being very diverse group of warriors. And you could play around with this idea that there are those new Mandalorians who are living on the ruins of a world that was destroyed by the warring clans of Mandalorians, and the warrior clans are spread out through the galaxy, with some trying to retake the Mandalore and rule them, but none of them have any real power or possibility of fully taking over the Mandalore. And that could be a fun idea to play with, as to maybe someone from Warhammer 40k Galaxy tries to unite Mandalorian clans or convince them to join the T'au Empire. New Mandalorians have Mandalore, sure, but you warriors, can create new Mandalore. You can join us and have another Mandalorian crusade, but now serving more than the planet that abandoned you, or the idea of fighting for a fighting's sake. You can fight for the greater good and regain your honor as warriors, for you to gain actual purpose. To be clear, T'au Ransai wouldn't take over the Mandalorians. No way, no how. But maybe be one character that he knows would. Another, I really like Ahsoka Tano as a character, but I don't like her as a Padawan to Anakin Skywalker. I would prefer to see her as a Padawan of Plo Koon, because, let's be honest, they fit together much better. So, as I explained it, you see that I would have to create entirely new timeline of the Clone Wars that both make sense in context of the Legends or Expanded Universe timeline, and with elements from the Clone Wars TV show. And that's freaking intimidating. That's a challenge and a half. There would be so many fucking ways of pissing people off that I am unsure if I ever try to attempt it. The story of T'au Ransai all the way to the Clone Wars is easy, because that's just jumping adventures through the Star Wars galaxy. That's nothing. That's something that I already done before. But actual Clone Wars, taking into account what influence the Tau military would have on CIS, how Sidious would have to adapt the Clone Wars and the Grand Army of the Republic to counteract the Tau influence. That's a lot. That's a lot indeed. But, on the other hand, how many fun interactions with Star Wars characters there could be. I had actual point after point idea of T'au Ransai meeting with Anakin Skywalker, maybe being captured and interrogated by him, and mocking him. because of his cybernetic arm. Because at this point, Muntsuransai would have at least 3 of his limbs would be cybernetic, would have spine augmentation, at least 1 cybernetic eye, and cybernetic lungs, because he lost them in the gas attack. Muntsuransai at this point wouldn't be more machine than man, but it will be clear that he has a lot of metal bits here and there. And he would mock Skywalker because he lost his arm because of his hubris and not thinking about who he's facing, because he lost it in the duel with Count Dooku. Count Dooku basically threw him to the side and cut his freaking arm, and that's it. So the hubris of Anakin Skywalker cost him an arm. And Muntsuransai would mock him because, for example, he lost his lungs in gas attack as he was saving civilians. He lost his eye as he was dragging his ally to safety as he was shot in the head. Managed to survive because helmet managed to protect him from most of the damage, but he lost his eye either way. And he would point every single wound in cybernetic, some which were taken by him willingly to augment his ability to fight, and some because of either a mistake or a sacrifice. He would point out the gap between them. Because maybe 1 or 2 of rant-size augmentations were caused by his stupidity or stupid mistake, when the rest are marks of his duty, of his honor and dedication to the greater good. And Anakin lost his arm because he was stupid, like a brick. And it shows that Muntsuransai survived fucking a lot, and there is no comparison in experience, in combat experience between them two. I already mentioned him interacting with Night Sisters, where basically he would be ignored for the sake when the male Psyker would arrive and decide that he would have fun with Night Sisters and make them Night Mothers, if you know what I mean. That was terrible. That was fucking terrible. I'm sorry, I apologize. Not. With Twi'leks, a species that was enslaved so many times and betrayed by the Republic, how pissed he would be. Zygerians, I already mentioned, just fucking shoot them. The Huts, similarly. The Chiss, interactions with Chiss would be really fun. The both respect and both not understanding why they are keeping themselves so isolated, why they don't seek allies. With Mandalorians, he would criticize not only the pacifists, but also the clans that caused basically destruction of their homeworld. If we take the Death Watch from the Clone Wars series, I mean, fuck, Death Watch under Vizsla is just group of bandits. That's all they are. The great proud warriors reduced to fucking bandits. That's all they are. He would mock their lack of unity, that for all their military skill, they couldn't unite even in the face of death of their own planet, but they caused that the remaining population of Mandalorians must live in habitable domes on their own homeworld. He would have no respect for pre-Vizsla. I mean, Vizsla is just a fucking bandit with a dark saber, that's it. He isn't... I mean, if pre-Vizsla was on fire, Muntsuransai wouldn't piss off on him. Just disgusting excuse of a warriors. That's how he would see them. Because being good combatants is one thing, but having actual reason and purpose as a warrior is just as important, if not more important, for a firecast. So the scattered and basically leaderless and clans of Mandalorians who have no reason to go forward beyond just keeping the tradition, would be laughed at by him and see them as unworthy of being called true warriors. A pale shadow of once great civilization. Yeah, and I would do my best for this to not happen, but if I went with a Clone Wars TV show timeline, and Mutsu met with Ahsoka Tano and Anakin Skywalker, he would basically just scream at them, mostly at Anakin. Because why the fuck did they put her in this fucking uniform? That's a child that is going onto battlefield. And this is what she is wearing. Who approved this fucking outfit? Like who? Was it George? Was it Filoni? Who did it? Why? Why did they do this? This is so inappropriate and so fucking dumb. Like, I wanted my character to just scream at them to war something proper on the fucking battlefield. I swear to all the gods that care to listen, sometimes I think that they design those characters in such a way so that Epstein would return as a Force ghost and go after them, so they could try to catch him. What the fucking joke? Fuck. That's another rant within my rant. Sorry. Yeah, I would try to avoid it. If I truly rewrote the history of the Clone Wars, Ahsoka not only becomes Padawan of Plo Koon, but she also wears something proper from the very start. Like, this outfit has no sense. Toghutas don't have traditions of wearing something like this. There is no reason for it. None. Ayla Secura at least had some reason because that's part of Twi'lek culture. Okay, I will let it slide. But why this? Why underage Ahsoka? Why? Why did they do this? Sorry, I'm trying to get ranting on this again, and I can't because I was rambling for too long already. I fucking knew this video will be long, but goddamn, it's far longer than I expected. Well, nothing for it. I hope that it was at least enjoyable. Tell me how you enjoyed my idea. If you, for crying out, if you want to see this project came to be sometime in the future, and more importantly, if you have any idea for another out of a hat video, like what I can rant about next time. If you have any suggestions, I am open to hear them, and I will be happy to listen to any proposition. I think that's about covers it. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, subscribe, ring the bell, the whole shtick. You know what to do. If you can buy me a coffee, links in the description below. I hope you enjoyed this little birthday rant that I made for you. Now, my dear listeners, remember, wherever you are, whatever you do, try to enjoy yourself while you can. I wish you most heretical day. Ta-ta!